Talk about irony. The one time we actually want Congress to do something, they don't. So far, there's no deal on extending the Bush-era tax cuts. And if they do nothing, then everyone gets a tax hike, which translates to even more theft by the government. My next guest is a titan of the airwaves and an enemy of big government bureaucrats everywhere. Here now, radio talk show host and my friend Neal Boortz. Neal, it's a pleasure. Thank you for joining us on Freedom Watch, you titan of the airwaves.
Thank you. I'm going to use that.
You're welcome to it. Aside from government workers and maybe some lawyers and accountants, do tax increases produce more jobs?
Only government jobs. I mean, how in the world could going to a jobs producer and saying, give me more of your bottom line so that we can spend it on what politicians want to spend it on instead of what you want to spend it on? How in the world does that create jobs? There's no way. And look, Democrats know that it won't create jobs. They are more interested in hammering Republicans and playing their wealth envy game than they are aiding in our economic recovery. They've shown that very plainly.
I agree with you, but that is reprehensible if their motivation is to hammer Republicans and play a game against the wealthy, because they must know that rich people employ others. They're actually harming their own constituencies by taxing the rich, aren't they?
Absolutely. Look, right now, there's a couple earning $80,000 a year that instead of watching you as they should be, they're probably watching a game show. And in January, all of a sudden, there's going to be about $230 extra taken out of every one of their biweekly paychecks. And it's going to be happening because these Democrats are more intent on exacting revenge against Republicans than they are doing the job that they were sent there to do.
The president seems to have indicated that he might be willing to sign legislation to extend the Bush-era tax cuts beyond the next presidential election. But the quid pro quo will be that the government will fund unemployment to the states for beyond 99 weeks. This will be another disaster, won't it, if we continue to pay people not to work?
Well, sure it will, because a lot of those people will say, ooh, wow, boy, that's great. I mean, it's another 6 months now before I really have to get serious here. Now, look, the solution to this is simple. People pay unemployment insurance. They're entitled to their unemployment up to a point. Okay, say after 52 weeks, it stops being a benefit and it starts being a loan. Tell these people you're going to get the check, but you're building up a balance now with the government, and when you get a job, you have to pay it back. See how fast these people get out there and start really looking for something so they're not running up this indebtedness, which, by the way, you would not be able to bankrupt against.
Milton Friedman once said that the progressive income tax is progressive the way a disease is progressive. It just gets worse and worse and worse. Are we ever going to see a day where we don't have the IRS, where there's some sort of a fairer, flatter, easier, safer way for the government to collect what little money we're going to let it take from us?
Oh, that question's a setup for me, isn't it, Judge?
All yours, my man.
Okay, look. The most researched piece of legislation in the history of this country ever placed before the Congress is H.R. 25. It is called the Fair Tax Act. It gets rid of the Internal Revenue Service. Everybody gets 100% of their paycheck, and you never pay a tax to the federal government unless you spend money. And when you do spend money, the items that you are purchasing cost just about the same as they do right now. It's called the fair tax, and it would accomplish everything that you just mentioned in your little laundry list there.
It would basically be a national sales tax, but you could control how much you were paying by controlling how much you were spending.
Sure you would. And yes, it is a national sales tax, but there's no income tax, there's no Social Security tax, there's no Medicare tax, there's no corporate income taxes, there's no dividend tax, there's no death tax, and you get the choice. I mean, the people can make the choice right now. What do you want to do? Let's just use 25%. You want to pay 25% of everything you earn, or 23% of everything you spend?
There you go. You just keep plugging away on that, Neal, and thanks for joining us. You're always welcome here.
Well, thanks for helping me on that, Judge.
Of course, my friend. Increasingly, politicians have been pressuring private individuals into capitulating to a variety of politically motivated demands. But this is a violation of the Due Process Clause of the Constitution, which you have a right to know about. So here's our lesson for today. This past summer, a caffeinated alcoholic drink called Four Loko became hugely popular. Today, you can't find this caffeinated version on the store shelves anywhere. Why? Because New York Senator Charles Schumer thinks it's dangerous. But caffeine is legal. Alcohol is legal. Irish coffee is legal. So why then is real Four Loko gone? Confronting the fear of retribution from politicians, the company that makes Four Loko pulled the product. This is disturbingly similar to when Vice President Joe Biden demanded that BP set up a $20 billion slush fund by threat rather than by law. And today, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Amazon.com has decided to stop hosting WikiLeaks, not because of its own free will, but because Senator Joe Lieberman leaned on them. This is not the noble act of politicians looking out for what's right. This is an unconstitutional use of force, which bypasses the court system. The Constitution requires that if the government wants to separate you from your life or your liberty or your property, the government must sue you in a court of law, not take what it wants by threat. I'm sorry, Chuck Schumer, being New York's senior senator doesn't give you the right to intimidate private companies with the weight of your office into giving into your personal preferences. When you were elected, you swore to uphold the Constitution, Chuck Schumer. It's about time you lived by your words.